It's 11 p.m., the night before what should be my happiest day. My mother hands me a cup of warm tea. "For your nerves, sweetheart," she says, her voice soft. I trust her. I drink, and the world starts to crumble as the sedative hits. My sister's voice slices through the haze. "Cut her hair off, or you'll lose me forever," Melissa demands. In my drugged stupor, I see my mother, my protector, pick up electric clippers. She chooses my sister over me. The buzzing sound that follows will haunt me forever. I wake up on my wedding morning, bald and betrayed. But my family doesn't know I have allies they never expected, evidence they never dreamed of, and a plan to turn their perfect Southern wedding into a nightmare. When the chapel doors open, 200 guests see my bald head. The room doesn't just go quiet, it erupts. Audio recordings play, screens flash receipts, and 3 generations of secrets collapse like dominoes. What happens next doesn't just ruin my family's reputation, it breaks a cycle of abuse that's poisoned us for decades. My name is Crystal Elizabeth Montgomery, and this is my story of revenge. You've never heard anything like it. 32, I thought I'd escaped my Southern belle mother's grip. As a marketing director in Atlanta, I built a life 2 hours from Magnolia Springs, Georgia, far enough to breathe, close enough to keep up the family facade. Tomorrow is my wedding, the end of 2 years of planning. It's been a war between my simple vision and my mother's grand Southern spectacle to flaunt our family's status. The Georgia humidity clings to me in my childhood bedroom, still decked in pink wallpaper and antique furniture from when I was 16. My parents insisted I spend my last single night here, calling it a lucky tradition. My mother glides in with a china teacup. "You look exhausted, sweetheart," she says, her silk nightgown screaming wealth. "Chamomile tea with a little extra to calm your jitters." I should have questioned it, she's never brought me tea before. Tea smells like my grandmother's rose garden. I'm desperate to ease my anxiety, so I sip. "Thanks, Mama," I say, the liquid warm and slightly bitter. "I'm so nervous about tomorrow." "Every bride feels this way," she says, sitting on my bed with practiced grace. "Melissa was the same before her engagement party." Her words feel hollow, like she's playing a role. Melissa bursts in, all drama and flushed cheeks. "Sorry I'm late," she says. "I was begging Brad to propose. Crystal's getting married, and I've been with him longer." Her words sting, as always. Tea makes me drowsy. The room tilts. "Melissa, don't be silly," my mother says, but there's no strength behind it. My sister's always been the golden child, even when she's wrong. Teacup slips from my hands, shattering on the floor. I try to stand, but my legs fail. "What's in the tea?" I slur. Melissa steps closer, her face cold. "Cut her hair off," she says, "or I'm gone forever." My mother sobs, her perfect control gone. Clippers buzz, and I know I've lost more than my hair. Consciousness fades as my world falls apart. I wake slowly, the sedative still gripping me. My childhood bedroom feels wrong. Something's off with my scalp. Hair litters the floor, catching the morning light. My heart sinks. I touch my head, expecting my long waves. Instead, I feel bare skin and stubble. My legs shake as I stumble to the bathroom mirror, dreading what I'll see. The reflection isn't me. My scalp is a patchwork of stubble and red welts from harsh clippers. Melissa didn't just cut my hair, she destroyed it, wanting to hurt me deeply. My fingers trace the raw skin, foreign and wrong. The bathroom door creaks. My mother's reflection joins mine, her perfect appearance cracked, her nightgown wrinkled. "Crystal, honey," she says, like she's managing a crisis, "you're still beautiful." Hair grows back. "We'll find a wig for today." "No one has to know." Her words dismiss my pain, protecting the family name. My father's voice cuts in from the hall, cold and flat. The betrayal is complete. But I'm not done. They don't know what's coming. My father appeared in the doorway, arms crossed, dressed for the wedding. His silver hair was perfect, his face blank. At least today you won't steal Melissa's spotlight, he said. She deserves to shine, and you've always been too dramatic. His words hit like stones, stirring memories of old wounds. This wasn't new. It was a pattern, stretching back years, where my moments were dimmed to lift Melissa up. I remembered my high school graduation. Melissa threw a fit about my valedictorian speech, saying it stole her moment. My parents made me cut it short so she could give the closing prayer. My Emory acceptance was buried because Melissa got her driver's license that week. My birthdays were downplayed, my Christmas gifts smaller, always with excuses about her needing more attention. For years, I was the scapegoat, my happiness sacrificed to prop up Melissa's fragile ego and my parents' perfect image. They didn't raise two successful daughters, just one golden child and me, the shadow. I gripped the bathroom sink, my knuckles white, steadying myself. This was my wedding day, planned for 2 years, costing thousands, with 200 guests waiting. It was supposed to be my escape. Instead, I looked like a stranger, bald, humiliated. My parents stood there, acting like I was overreacting. But something shifted inside me, a spark of anger growing into fire. It wasn't just about my hair. It was 32 years of being told I didn't matter, that Melissa was the star. That spark became resolve. Tomorrow they'd be the ones shaking. In that bathroom, staring at my ruined reflection, memories flooded back. This wasn't a one-time betrayal, it was my life, woven so tightly into our family I almost thought it was normal. I was 14 when I first saw the difference. At my high school's spring formal, Melissa, only 10, was already everyone's darling with her golden curls and southern charm. I felt beautiful in my blue dress, bought with babysitting money. Walking into the gym with Tommy, my shy chemistry class date, I was on top of the world. But when I got home, glowing from slow dances, my mother barely noticed. She was too busy coaching Melissa's posture for a cotillion years away. "Keep your voice down," she said absently. "You're too animated." The next week hurt worse. I brought home my formal photo with Tommy, hoping it'd join the family pictures. My mother glanced at it and said, "Melissa would have smiled bigger." To learn from her charm. That year, Melissa started cotillion classes. Every Thursday, my parents drove her to the country club, praising her grace at dinner. I ate fast and hid in my room, my good grades ignored. By high school, the favoritism was glaring. For Melissa's 16th birthday, they bought her a pearl-white BMW, parading it for the neighborhood. I worked 25 hours a week at a coffee shop, saving for college. When I asked about a car, my father handed me a bus schedule, saying it'd teach me responsibility. I waited in the Georgia heat, while Melissa's car got endless praise online. The worst was my senior year. I won the Peachtree Scholar Award, a full scholarship to the University of Georgia. It was life-changing, covering everything: tuition, room, board, books. I rushed home, bursting to share the news. But my mother was posting photos of Melissa's junior prom dress, a pricey emerald gown. She gushed about Melissa's beauty, ignoring my letter. She glanced at my scholarship and said, "That's nice, practical." Then she went back to posting about Melissa's dress being in a boutique window. My achievement got no mention online. That year still stings. Now it's clear why they drugged and shaved me. Reputation was everything: my father's role as homeowners association chair, my mother's perfect hostess act. My father ruled neighborhood meetings like a king, commanding respect over property values. My mother served praline cake and sweet tea, her silence part of the show. My mother was the queen of Southern hospitality, her charm proof that old-school values still ruled in our fast-changing world. Neighbors praised her flowers and Melissa's achievements. She'd deflect with a modest smile, subtly weaving our family's perfection into every chat. First Baptist Church, my parents were untouchable. It wasn't just worship, it was a stage for social status, built on committee roles and donations. My father, a deacon for 15 years, and my mother, head of the Ladies' Auxiliary, were the ideal Christian couple. People saw us as blessed, a family with 2 daughters destined for greatness. Pastor Williams used us in sermons, praising our Christian values. But behind closed doors, it was manipulation and favoritism, dressed up as love. My wedding was their grand finale, a show to cement their image. When David and I got engaged, my mother turned it into a campaign. The guest list screamed Magnolia Springs elite: mayor, bank president, country club board, Pastor Williams. She picked Magnolia Hills Country Club, the fanciest venue around, where senators' daughters wed. It was perfect for photos to flood social media and Christmas cards showcasing our family's status. But in my childhood bathroom, my bald scalp exposed the truth. This wedding was never about me or David, it was about the Montgomery brand, proving they raised perfect daughters. My parents stood in the doorway, avoiding my head. My father stared over my shoulder, my mother fixed on her own reflection. They weren't worried about my pain, just their crumbling image. They feared what 200 guests would think when they saw what they'd done. Their stage for perfection was about to become their downfall. I'd make sure of it under those bright lights. Footsteps broke the silence. My parents snapped into their fake normalcy, but I knew those steps, steady, fearless. Aunt Ruth was here. My father's older sister, 68, was a retired English teacher who spoke truth without apology. Ruth entered, her silver bun neat, her blue eyes sharp, scanning the scene like a novel she was analyzing. "Quite the morning drama," she said, her voice dry but kind. My mother jumped in, her voice falsely bright. "Ruth, thank goodness you're early. Crystal had a little accident with scissors, nervous bride, you know. We're figuring out how to style it for the ceremony." The lie burned. I wanted to scream. But Ruth raised an eyebrow, stepping into the room with a presence that shrank everyone else. She'd spent 40 years teaching, immune to lies. "Charles, Margaret," she said, her tone firm like scolding a cheating student, "Crystal and I need a moment. Go make breakfast for your guests." It wasn't a request. My parents exchanged a glance, then left, whispering plans to save their reputation. Ruth closed the door with a soft click, pulling silk scarves, blue and gray, from her canvas bag. She draped one over my head, her touch gentle, making my throat tighten. "I've known for years," she said softly, arranging the scarf with care. "Not last night's details, but the pattern, how they sacrifice you for Melissa's ego and their image." Her words cracked something inside me. I leaned into her like a kid craving unconditional love. Ruth, the family rebel, chose books over babies, truth over pretense, and now she was my lifeline. Aunt Ruth was always the one who noticed my achievements, cheering my small wins with a warmth my parents saved for Melissa's social victories. She chose truth over pleasing others. "The thing is, sweetheart," Ruth said, pinning a silver leaf to the scarf on my head, "technology's changed everything. Your parents got that new doorbell camera last month, the kind that's always recording." Her words sank in. That camera could have caught Melissa's threat, my parents' whispers, maybe even the Clippers' buzz, proof of their betrayal. My despair shifted to hope. Ruth smiled, like a teacher proud of a student's breakthrough. "I know Tommy Chen, the country club's AV guy. He was in my AP English class. He's sharp and believes in truth over convenience. He'd help you set up a little show today," she added, her hand gently stroking my scalp through the scarf. Her kindness hit me hard, filling a void my mother never did. "You're not alone, Crystal," she said, her voice steady with wisdom. "Some battles need a bright light to expose what's been hidden." Her words lifted the darkness inside me. Ruth left, and I faced my reflection. I wasn't a victim anymore. I had allies and a plan. Removing the scarf, I saw my bald scalp not as shame but as a weapon. My wedding dress hung in the closet, chosen after fights with my mother. She wanted a frilly, traditional gown for photos. I wanted simple elegance. We compromised. Now, the ivory silk gown with its clean lines and sheer cathedral veil was perfect for a new reason. The veil, meant to frame my hair, would highlight my bare head instead. Holding it up, I saw hiding my scalp would let my family win. Draping the veil to show what they did would turn their cruelty into my strength. impossible to ignore. I arranged the veil to make my baldness striking, not tragic. The morning breeze on my scalp felt like freedom, not violation. I was alive, choosing my path. But I needed more than looks. Ruth's camera hint sparked a plan. I grabbed my laptop, treating this like a high-stakes marketing pitch, mapping out 2 paths. Option 1. Go through with the wedding, keep the family's image intact, and deal with this privately. It'd let them off, letting them think I was still disposable. Option 2. Use the reception to expose the truth with evidence. It risked family ties and their perfect facade, but it could end generations of abuse. Timing was key. The ceremony had to go smoothly for David and to keep my parents from interfering. The reception, with everyone watching, I'd reveal everything. I texted Tommy Chen, the AV guy Ruth mentioned. I vaguely remembered him from church, quiet, principled. Tommy, it's Crystal. Need your help today. Meet me privately before the reception. Keep it quiet. He replied fast. Of course, Miss Crystal. I'll be at the club by noon. Whatever you need. I sent one more text. Play it only when I nod. Sighed, the Georgia sun rose, promising gold. In hours, 200 guests would expect a happy wedding. They'd see something bigger, a moment when silence turned to truth. By 10 a.m., the bridal suite at Magnolia Hills Country Club buzzed with activity. My bridesmaids, college friends from Atlanta, wore sage green gowns, chatting with Francine, the elite makeup artist my mother hired. When I walked in, the room froze. Their faces flashed shock and horror at my bald head. Francine, a polished woman in her 50s, recovered first, approaching cautiously. "Oh, honey," she said, her voice soft but professional. "What happened to your hair?" Her career of beautifying Southern elite hadn't prepared her for a bald bride. Jessica, my maid of honor, stepped up, her journalist instincts sharp. "This wasn't an accident, Crystal," she said, angry. "If someone did this, we're calling the police." Amanda and Caroline, my other bridesmaids, whispered. "This isn't right," Amanda said. "Your family's all about Southern grace. How could they let this happen on your wedding day?" Their shock hit me. In their world, families protected brides, ensuring perfection. My family's betrayal shattered that ideal, exposing the truth behind our polished facade. My appearance shook my bridesmaids' beliefs in family loyalty and Southern values. Caroline was on her phone, typing fast. Soon, she showed Amanda something that made them gasp. "Look," Caroline said, turning her phone to Jessica. The neighborhood Facebook group's going wild. Someone posted a photo of Crystal arriving, and the comments aren't kind to your family. I leaned in, my stomach twisting. The photo, taken as I walked from my car to the club, showed my bald scalp clearly. Comments poured in on the Magnolia Hills neighborhood watch group. Neighbors expressed shock and subtle jabs at my parents. "That family seemed so perfect," one wrote with 15 likes. "What's really going on in those big houses?" Another said, "Margaret would never let her daughter look less than perfect unless something awful happened." The gossip spread fast, cracking my family's polished image. Francine cleared her throat, snapping us back. "We need to make you stunning for today," she said, ready to solve the problem. "I've worked with bald clients before. We can make this beautiful." I raised my hand, stopping her. I didn't want wigs or cover-ups. The fire in my chest burned strong, fueling a new confidence. I wasn't hiding anymore. "Francine," I said, my voice steady, "don't hide it. Make me look powerful, like a fairy tale heroine who's fought and won. I want everyone to see courage, not pity." The room went quiet, but the mood shifted. Pity turned to respect. Jessica grinned, her fierce look showing she got my plan. Then the door opened and David walked in. Everyone froze, waiting for my groom's reaction. David, in his charcoal tux, stood still, gripping the door handle. His face showed he wasn't ready for this. He looked from my face to my scalp, emotions flashing, shock, but also something deeper, like he saw the truth behind it. This wasn't about hair, it was about us. David stepped in, closing the door softly. The bridesmaids backed off, giving us space. Francine busied herself with her brushes, letting us have this moment. "Crystal," he whispered, his voice full of love. He approached carefully, not out of fear, but knowing I was running on adrenaline and grit. He took my hands, his thumbs tracing calming circles on my knuckles, like always when I was stressed. His warmth grounded me, a reminder not everyone betrayed me. "Do you want to cancel?" he asked softly. "It's your call, Crystal. I'll follow you to the altar, the parking lot, anywhere. All I care about is what you need." His words, so focused on me, brought tears to my eyes. He didn't mention guests or deposits, just my feelings, my choice in a way no one else had. "They drugged me," I blurted. "Last night, my parents put something in my tea. Melissa threatened to leave if they didn't cut my hair. They chose her over me." My voice shook, but I watched David's face, bracing for doubt. Instead, his jaw clenched with anger, his grip tightening protectively, shielding me from more hurt. "Jesus," he muttered, processing the betrayal. David, always logical, knew this wasn't fixable with reason. It was cruelty from those meant to love me. "I love you, not an image," he said firmly. "Not your hair or your family's reputation. I love your strength, your kindness, your ability to cut through lies." He brushed a tear from my cheek. "You're beautiful because you're you. If your family can't see that, they don't deserve us." His words felt like fresh air. I wasn't alone anymore. David's support showed me the life we could build, free from my family's toxicity. But I hadn't told him my full plan yet. Heels clicked sharply in the hall, my mother's determined stride. She burst into the bridal suite without knocking, a vision in her champagne dress, her updo perfect. Her smile screamed Southern charm, like she was here to celebrate me. "David, you look handsome," she said, hugging him with calculated warmth, a nod to his value to her image. Her subtle jab at his modest background stung. I saw it. David saw it. Jessica's glare confirmed she did too. My mother's cruelty hid in sweet words. "Now, Crystal," she said, turning to me with fake cheer, "you still look beautiful in your way. Let's not make a fuss. We don't want to embarrass ourselves in front of our guests." Her words minimized my pain, demanding I protect her reputation. It was classic gaslighting, so smooth I almost admired it, if it weren't aimed at me. My father appeared behind her, his suit crisp, his silver hair perfect. His stern look carried the weight of a patriarch expecting obedience, like at his HOA meetings. "Guests are arriving," he said, his tone final. "The pastor, mayor, and council members are here. They expect Southern grace, Crystal, not a spectacle for gossip." His words pressed every button of my upbringing, pushing me to comply. But I was done bending to their expectations. In Magnolia Springs, reputation was everything. Embarrassing important guests like the pastor or mayor was a social sin. Their approval defined a family's status. My mother leaned in, her voice low. "We can't afford a mess today, Crystal. This wedding cost a fortune, and Melissa's in a delicate spot right now. She's struggling since quitting her job," she said casually. "We've been covering her credit card debt. A scandal would crush her, knowing she depends on us." Her words hit me hard. Melissa wasn't just jealous, she was drowning in debt, reliant on our parents. That explained her ultimatum. She needed their favor to survive. "She's so grateful for our help," my mother went on, oblivious to what she'd revealed. "She wants to prove her loyalty to us for supporting her through this." Clicked. Melissa's threat wasn't just rivalry, it was desperation. My humiliation was the price of her financial security, and my parents paid it willingly. Aunt Ruth stood behind my mother, her eyes sharp with recognition, like she recalled a dark family secret. Sent a chill through me. Ruth stepped forward, touching my mother's arm. "Margaret, let's give Crystal and David some time," she said firmly. You and Charles should check the catering. My parents hesitated, my mother's frustration clear, but they left. Ruth turned to me, her face serious. It's time you heard the doorbell camera footage, she said. She pulled out her phone, handling it like a loaded gun. I downloaded it this morning. Your parents don't know I have access to their security system. My heart raced as she opened a video from last night. The porch camera's image was clear, showing our quiet neighborhood. Then the audio started. Melissa's voice was sharp, chilling. Cut her hair off or you'll lose me forever. I swear, Mama, I'll leave tonight if you don't. It was worse hearing it again. My mother's reply was desperate, tearful. Please don't make me choose, Melissa. There's got to be another way. But her voice betrayed her. She was giving in. My father's tone was cold. We'll do it fast. She won't remember much with the sedative. Then I heard something else, male laughter, not my father's, in the background. It was faint but unmistakable, coming from someone outside the family. Ruth, who's that laughing? I whispered, my blood running cold. Someone else was there. Ruth paused the video, her face grim. I don't know. This was at 11:43 p.m. No guests were expected. Your parents wanted a family-only night. David leaned in, analytical. Can we enhance the audio to identify that laugh? I knew that laugh, but couldn't place it. Felt familiar, like someone close. The voice grew clearer in parts, encouraging my family's plan. This wasn't a stranger, it was someone invested, amused by my humiliation. I grabbed my phone, transferring the audio from Ruth's device, backing it up to the cloud. I wasn't letting this evidence vanish. I needed control. Tomicha needs this now, I said, texting the AV tech. He has to check the audio for the reception. This wasn't just a family fight, it was calculated cruelty. I sent Tommy the file, audio from last night. Review for quality ASAP. This changes everything. My sister's voice, cut her hair, was my key to exposing them. Ruth straightened, urgent. We need more than audio, Crystal, she said, checking her watch. Physical evidence to back up what we heard. David nodded, his business mind sharp. Documentation, medical records, financial proof, showing this was planned, not a random act. Ruth agreed. Your parents are predictable about hiding evidence. Margaret cleans up messes, but I know her patterns. We can use that. We slipped through the country club's service halls to the staff area where trash from last night was held. Ruth had sweet-talked the supervisor to let us search. Wearing gloves from the club's first aid kit, we dug through bins like detectives. David found a prescription bottle buried in coffee grounds, lorazepam, a sedative. The label stopped me cold. Melissa and Montgomery, filled 3 days ago at our family's pharmacy. My sister's name tied her directly to my drugging. This doesn't add up, I said, turning the bottle over. It was no accident Melissa planned this. The evidence was piling up, and I was ready to use it. Ruth's face darkened as she snapped photos of the bottle from every angle, capturing the label clearly. Keep looking, sweetheart, she said. This might be just the start. We dug through more bags methodically. Then I found something that twisted my gut, thick strands of my dark brown hair tossed like trash, mixed with smaller clippings. Seeing my own hair discarded hurt deeply, but it was solid proof. The bottom, wrapped in a towel, were the electric clippers used on me. They were pro-grade, like salon tools, not home ones. Someone got them to cause maximum damage. Ruth spotted fingerprints on the handle under the lights. Document it all, David said, his voice steady. Photos, measurements, to show it's from your house last night. Ruth's phone pinged with an email. She showed us a pharmacy receipt, forwarded to her as family emergency contact from Grandma's days. The shock. My father bought it with his credit card, not Melissa, even though her name was on the bottle. Charles Montgomery purchased the drug that knocked me out, hours before Melissa's threat. The receipt stared back at me like a confession, time-stamped at 4:37 p.m. My father, the man who preached family values from his church deacon's seat, had walked into that pharmacy with intent. He hadn't just reacted to Melissa's tantrum, he'd orchestrated it. "This changes everything," David said, his voice low and edged with fury. He pointed at the timestamp on Ruth's phone screen, his fingers steady despite the anger I could see building in his eyes. "Your father planned this, not just your mother caving to Melissa. He bought the sedative before any ultimatum. This was premeditated." My mental picture shattered like fragile glass under a hammer. I'd clung to the idea that my mother was the weak link, manipulated by Melissa's emotional blackmail. But no, this was a conspiracy. My father, the upright deacon who led prayers and community meetings with unshakable authority, had plotted my humiliation like it was another agenda item in one of his HOA board meetings. The thought made my stomach churn. How long had he been capable of this? Had his moral facade always hidden such cold calculation? Ruth forwarded the receipt to both our phones, her fingers flying across the screen with the efficiency of someone who documented enough school scandals to know the drill. She snapped more photos of the prescription bottle, zooming in on the serial numbers, pharmacy codes, and expiration dates. "These links are ironclad," she muttered, her voice a mix of satisfaction and sorrow. "No way they can deny the connection now." We had a full case now, audio for the damning words spoken in the dead of night, receipts proving the planning went back hours or even days, and the physical remnants of my hair and those cursed clippers as undeniable proof of the act itself. It wasn't just family drama anymore. This could mean real charges, assault, maybe even conspiracy. And beyond the law, it would end their precious reputation, the one they'd built like a fortress over decades in Magnolia Springs. The deacon and the social queen, toppled by their own daughter's evidence. The betrayal clicked into place like the final piece of a twisted puzzle, but one secret lingered in the shadows of my mind. What else was hidden in this family's closet? Ruth's earlier flash of recognition when my mother mentioned Melissa's debts, it hinted at something older, deeper. But I pushed it aside for now. We had to move. With the evidence secured in our phones and Ruth's bag, we headed back through the country club's winding corridors to the bridal area. The air felt thicker here, charged with the hum of last-minute preparations. Florists adjusted bouquets, caterers wheeled in silver trays, and distant laughter from early guests echoed off the walls. But for me, that hour before the ceremony buzzed with a different tension, a mix of nerves, resolve, and the sharp edge of impending justice. Rounding a corner by the grand ballroom, I nearly collided with the last person I wanted to see. Melissa stood there, blocking my path like a sentinel in her sage-green maid of honor gown. She was the epitome of a Southern belle, her posture perfect, her smile rehearsed. The gown hugged her curves in all the right places, designed to turn heads without stealing the spotlight, or so the plan had been. Her updo was elaborate, twisted with pearls that caught the hallway light, and her makeup was flawless, smoky eyes and rosy cheeks applied by the same artist who'd done mine earlier. She looked every bit the helpful sister, ready to fluff my veil or offer a tissue. But I knew better. Her eyes betrayed her, wide with desperation, darting like a cornered animal's. This wasn't the bold, ultimatum-throwing Melissa from last night, the one who'd screamed demands while I lay drugged and helpless. No, this version was scrambling, her perfect facade cracking under the weight of whatever rumors or glimpses she'd caught of my morning discoveries. "Crystal," she said, her voice dripping with artificial sweetness, the kind she'd used since childhood to wheedle favors or deflect blame. "I was hoping we could have a few minutes alone before the ceremony, sister to sister, to clear the air about everything that happened last night." David immediately stepped closer to me, his body a protective shield. I could feel the tension in his shoulders, ready to intervene if she pushed too far. Ruth positioned herself just behind Melissa, her expression neutral but her stance alert, like a teacher ready to break up a hallway fight. Their presence strengthened me, a silent reminder that I had allies now. "We've said enough," I replied, my voice steady despite the storm raging inside. The words came out calm, measured, years of holding my tongue in family arguments finally paying off. Unless you're here to apologize for drugging me and shaving my head on my wedding day, we're done talking. Her mask of sisterly concern cracked for a split second, revealing the nastiness beneath, a flash of bared teeth, eyes narrowing like a predator's. Then she reassembled it into faked hurt, her lower lip trembling just enough to sell the act. "Crystal, you're being so dramatic about this," she said, her tone condescending like I was a child throwing a tantrum. "It's just hair and it will grow back. Besides, you look fine, different but fine. No one's going to care as much as you think." Casual dismissal ignited something in me, but I held back. She leaned in closer, her perfume, sweet and cloying, the same floral scent our mother wore, wafting over me like a cloud. Her whisper was meant for my ears alone. "Do you think he only loves you?" Her gaze flicked to David, lingering a beat too long. "What if you're not as secure in this relationship as you think?" Her malice stole my breath, a sharp inhale that I hoped she didn't notice. This attack went beyond the hair or the money troubles my mother had let slip. It was personal destruction, aimed at the heart of my happiness, my bond with David. I studied her face up close, the way her mascara-framed eyes gleamed with that hungry look toward him. It wasn't just jealousy, it was deep-seated resentment, a festering wound she'd nursed in secret. She wanted to ruin my marriage before it even started, to plant doubts that would grow like weeds in our future. Melissa's voice turned dreamy, dripping with venom as she twisted the knife. "David and I spent a lot of time together, you know. Those coffee meetings when you worked late at the office talking about your relationship. The way he looked at me when he thought no one saw, it was intense." Her words stabbed deep into old insecurities. I remembered those meetings vaguely. David had mentioned them casually, often with a roll of his eyes at Melissa's endless monologues about her own life. He'd complain about how she'd turn every conversation back to herself, her dramas, her needs. I'd laughed it off then, trusting him completely. But now, through her poisonous lens, those innocent afternoons took on a sinister shade. Doubt crept in unbidden. Had I missed something? I turned to study David's face, searching for any flicker of guilt, any telltale sign that her lies held a kernel of truth. But instead of discomfort or evasion, I saw pure disgust etching his features. His jaw tightened, eyes narrowing as if he were seeing Melissa for the first time, not as my annoying sister, but as a master manipulator whose cruelty knew no bounds. It was like a veil had lifted for him too, revealing the depth of her toxicity. "He looked at me differently," she whispered, leaning even closer, her breath warm against my ear. "Like he saw something in me that he couldn't find in you. I'm not saying anything happened, of course, but there was definitely a connection there. A spark, the kind of thing that makes you wonder what might have been if circumstances had been different. If, say, he'd met me first." Her lies were so blatant, so transparently crafted to inflict maximum pain, that my anger crystallized into something sharper than rage, cold, focused resolve. This wasn't just about destroying my wedding day or humiliating me in front of our tight-knit community. No, Melissa aimed to dismantle my entire sense of reality. She wanted me to question not only my family ties but the one pure, loving relationship that had given me hope for escape from their web of deceit. But as I locked eyes with her, noting the slight tremble in her manicured hands and the desperate glint in her perfectly lined eyes, I realized she'd revealed more than she intended. This wasn't the move of someone holding all the cards. It was the flailing strike of a cornered woman who'd lost control. Her plan was unraveling, thread by thread, and she knew it. She was lashing out to cause as much chaos as possible before the full truth hit. "Today isn't your day," I said coldly, my words slicing through the air like a blade. I watched her flinch, her eyes flashing with raw anger that she quickly masked. But in that brief moment, I glimpsed something deeper, a hidden pain, an old wound that festered beneath her golden child exterior. Was it rejection? Insecurity? I didn't have time to unpack it now. The clock was ticking toward the ceremony. The ceremony was only 2 hours away, and I needed to safeguard my plan from any further interference by my family. Their web of control was vast, but with David and Ruth beside me like guardians, I felt a surge of power. We pushed past Melissa without another word, her frustrated huff echoing behind us as we headed to the chapel. Pastor Williams, a fixture in my life since childhood Sunday school classes, was prepping in the small vestry. I'd always admired how he balanced respect for my family's prominent church role with his own unyielding moral convictions. He'd clashed quietly with community politics more than once, prioritizing scripture over social standing. When he looked up and saw my bald scalp, his face cycled through shock, eyes widening behind his wire-rimmed glasses, then deep concern lines deepening on his forehead. Unlike my parents, who would have jumped to spin or minimize, he didn't rush to explain it away or offer platitudes. He simply waited, his kind eyes inviting me to speak on my terms. "Pastor," I said, my voice surprisingly steady, a calm born from hours of building resolve. "I need you to run the ceremony as planned, no changes, no matter what you hear about last night. This wedding is sacred to David and me. We won't let my family's actions taint it." He nodded slowly, his face heavy with the weight of countless family crises he'd counseled through. "Crystal, I see you've been hurt deeply," he said, his tone warm but firm. "You have my full support. But if this involves criminal acts, I have duties as a pastor and community leader. I can't turn a blind eye." His words grounded me further, a reminder that this wasn't just personal vendetta. He saw the gravity, hinting at potential legal ramifications without pushing. It was reassuring, knowing someone in authority recognized the wrong done to me. "I know your duties," I replied, meeting his gaze. "I'm not asking you to ignore them. Just let me handle this my way, at my pace. Let the truth emerge at the reception, where justice can shine through community eyes, not just courts." He studied me intently, as if weighing the state of my soul against the chaos around it. After a long pause, he reached out and touched my hand gently, his calloused fingers conveying decades of pastoral care. "I've seen your family's hidden struggles for years," he said softly. "If you say this caused real harm, I believe you. I'll support your path to justice and healing." His endorsement gave me the strength to press on. I left the vestry and moved to the reception area, where Tommy Chen was meticulously setting up the AV equipment amid tables draped in white linens and floral centerpieces. He was just as Ruth had described, young, serious, with a quiet intensity that spoke of deep moral fiber. Wires and screens surrounded him, but his focus was laser-sharp. When I approached with my request to integrate the audio evidence, he listened without interruption, his dark eyes absorbing every detail. "Miss Crystal," he said hesitantly, glancing around as if expecting eavesdroppers, "your mother spoke to me earlier this morning. She wanted me to be ready to cut the audio system if there were any technical difficulties during the reception, like from drunk guests causing disruptions." My heart sank like a stone in water. Of course, my mother had anticipated this. Her social maneuvering skills were legendary. She'd tried to sabotage my one avenue for truth-telling. For a split second, I felt outplayed, the familiar sting of being one step behind my family's games. But Tommy's expression shifted to determination, his next words reigniting my hope. "However, I've listened to the audio file you sent me, and I've seen the documentation from your aunt. What was done to you is morally reprehensible. I won't be part of helping your family cover it up. I have backup systems and alternative methods your mother doesn't know about." He explained briefly how he'd rigged secondary speakers and a fail-safe projector, hidden from casual inspection. "When you're ready to share the truth, I'll make sure everyone hears it clearly, no interruptions." Relief flooded through me, warm and empowering. Despite my mother's schemes, integrity still existed in unexpected places. Ruth appeared at my side then, as if drawn by some auntly intuition, her silver bun still impeccable despite the morning's chaos. "You're not alone, Crystal," she said firmly, her voice carrying the steel of someone who'd faced down defiant teenagers and bureaucratic red tape for decades. "I've watched this family's toxicity fester for too long to stay silent now. I'll stand with you, testify if needed, corroborate your story, face the fallout right beside you." Her commitment wasn't just words, it was a lifeline, offering not only aid for today's confrontation but a path to breaking free from generations of abuse and favoritism. With Ruth's wisdom, Tommy's tech savvy, and David's unwavering love, I had assembled a real team, a coalition dedicated to truth over facade, justice over reputation, and my healing over the perpetuation of old wounds. Pastor Williams joined our small huddle moments later, his clerical robes swishing as he approached, preparations complete. His presence completed the circle, turning my ragtag allies into something unbreakable. "Crystal," he said, his voice blending pastoral gentleness with a prophetic edge that always made his sermons memorable, "I've been thinking about what you said, and I want you to know that sometimes God uses the most painful experiences to expose the darkness that has been hiding in families and communities for generations." He leaned in slightly, whispering so only we could hear, "Justice isn't loud, but it's clear, and today it will echo, breaking even the ghosts from the past." Those words lodged in my mind like a mantra, a spiritual armor as I prepared for what came next. Pastor Williams' prophetic words still echoed in my mind as I found myself standing in the small anteroom behind the chapel's main doors. The space was cozy, scented with polished wood and fresh flowers from the altar arrangements. Through the thick oak, I could hear the gentle murmur of 200 guests settling into their seats, expecting a picture-perfect Southern wedding. Their conversations created a low hum that vibrated through the doors, punctuated by the occasional rustle of silk programs and the soft click of high heels on the marble floors as stragglers found their places. Laughter bubbled up here and there, light and carefree, from people who had no idea of the storm brewing. Church organist began the processional music, the familiar strains of Pachelbel's cannons swelling through the space. The notes danced off the vaulted ceiling, filling the chapel with solemn beauty that had accompanied brides for generations. It was meant to be romantic, tender, a prelude to vows and happily ever afters. But as the music swelled, it took on a different quality in my ears. Not gentle at all, but something more like a battle hymn, stirring my blood and steeling my resolve. Each chord synchronized with my heartbeat, creating a rhythm that steadied my nerves and banished any lingering doubt. This wasn't just about the revenge I'd unveil at the reception. It was about David and me first, our commitment to a life built on honesty, not the web of deceptions that had entangled my family for as long as I could remember. The music wasn't lulling me into romance, it was calling me to war against the lies. The melody urged me not just to walk down an aisle but to step across a threshold, from victimhood to empowerment, from silence to voice. I reached into my small beaded purse and pulled out the compact mirror that had been my grandmother's, its silver surface tarnished but gleaming with history. Generations of Montgomery women had used it to check their appearances before big moments, weddings, debutante balls, church events. But when I opened it and gazed at my reflection, I realized the woman staring back bore no resemblance to the frightened, humiliated victim who'd confronted her bald scalp in the harsh bathroom light that morning. That version of me had been raw, broken, tears threatening to spill. Now my eyes were clear and determined, reflecting not shame but a fierce dignity I'd never claimed before. They sparkled with purpose, the kind that comes from rock-bottom survival. My scalp, which had seemed so shocking and vulnerable earlier, now appeared almost regal under the soft, diffused illumination of the chapel's anteroom. The fine bone structure of my skull was visible in a way that hair had always hidden, and rather than making me look diminished or frail, it emphasized the strength and intelligence that had always been my core traits. High cheekbones, a defined jawline, it was like seeing myself stripped to essentials, forged in fire and emerging unbreakable. I looked like someone who'd survived a brutal trial and come out not shattered but refined, harder, more resilient, ready to face whatever came next. The sheer veil I'd chosen to showcase rather than conceal my condition caught the light streaming through the nearby stained glass windows, creating an almost ethereal effect. The fabric shimmered with hints of color, blues from the sky panels, reds from the rose depictions, surrounding my head with a subtle nimbus. Transformed what my family had intended as utter humiliation into something powerful, almost symbolic. I wasn't a victim anymore. I wore my truth like a crown, defiant and unapologetic. I carefully adjusted the veil one final time, ensuring it would flow gracefully as I walked down the aisle, while giving every guest an unobstructed view of my bare scalp. This wasn't about vanity or hiding flaws, it was about testimony. bearing witness to the truth in a way that demanded attention, impossible to ignore or spin into a polite lie. Every step down that aisle would be a silent statement of resilience. Every photograph captured by the wedding photographer or the guests' phones would serve as eternal evidence of what I'd endured. Every shocked whisper from the pews would validate my pain, turning their gasps into allies for my cause. My phone buzzed softly in my purse, a discreet vibration that pulled me from my thoughts. I pulled it out, Tommy Chen's name on the screen. His message was brief but packed with reassurance. Everything ready on my end. Sound system fully operational with backup protocols. Waiting for your signal. My plan was secure, his technical wizardry outsmarting my mother's sabotage attempts. I quickly typed my response, knowing this would be my last communication before the ceremony began. Everything hinged on perfect timing and flawless coordination, no room for error. "Only play when I nod, not before," I wrote, my fingers steady on the keyboard despite the adrenaline surging through me. "This has to happen exactly right, or it won't work at all." I hit send, watched the delivery confirmation, then powered off the phone completely. No distractions now. The die was cast, the pieces in motion. There would be no turning back from this path. I'd committed to seeing it through, come what may. Through the heavy doors, I could hear Pastor Williams beginning the traditional opening words of the wedding ceremony. His voice carried clearly through the chapel, warm and resonant, inviting the congregation to witness the sacred union about to unfold. "Dearly beloved, we are gathered here today." His tone gave no hint of the dramatic revelations set to explode just hours later in the reception hall. For now, this moment belonged purely to love and commitment, to the eternal hope that David and I could forge something beautiful together, rising above the brokenness of my family's legacy. Ruth slipped in beside me then, having moved quietly into the anteroom to offer her final words, or rather, her silent support. She didn't speak. Sometimes actions say more than any monologue. Instead, she squeezed my hand gently, her grip firm and reassuring, then nodded toward the doors with an expression blending pride and unyielding determination. She understood the gravity, that I was about to do something monumental, altering not just my trajectory but potentially reshaping our entire family's dynamics. Her presence was a quiet anchor, reminding me that I wasn't facing this alone. Allies like her made the impossible feel achievable. And as those chapel doors swung open, the collective gasps from the guests thundered through the space like a storm breaking. The sound was visceral, a wave of shock rippling from front pew to back. But that's a story for another moment, the walk, the vows, the turning point. The bald truth is my strongest crown, a symbol of survival and strength. Thank you for hearing my story, for walking this path with me through the words. If it moved you, stirred something in your own life, please like, subscribe, and share your own tales of triumph below. Until next time, stay fierce, stay true.